Hi everyone. It's been a little while since I did any painting videos, so I wanted to put something together just to show off some of the models from the Battle of the Pelennor Fields box set. So what I want to do is just go through a couple of the steps I've been using to paint the Army of the Dead. So these are not new models, these are the plastic Army of the Dead kit which has been available from Games Workshop for a few years. Prior to that they were available in metal, but I don't think they can be bought anymore. So, from the film versions, the Army of the Dead appear very much like ghosts, and they're bright, luminous green. And for me, I don't mind how they look, but I think it can look a little bit cartoony, especially when you see them sort of like crawling up the walls of Minas Tirith and over the entire army and just sort of like swallowing everything up. So, I know quite a few people have used new Games Workshop. I can't remember if it's technical paint or it's a wash, but it's the Hexwraith Flame. And whilst it does look really effective because it's very, very quite a bright paint. It gets in all the detail. It picks out all the important details, I should say, and it really is quite bright and quite striking. So you could easily just do that wash and a dry brush and it'd be finished. But what I've tried to do is I've tried to go for something a little bit more muted down, simply because although the Hexwraith Flame looks okay, for me it looks more like, I don't know, some sort of radioactive disaster or something. It looks like they're coming out of a reactor leak rather than, out of the, ghosts. So what I've done is I've gone for almost a slight change in the tone halfway through the model. So it starts off very bright at the top, very light, and then these are still wet at the moment, and they come down darker to the bottom. So, without any further ado, took all these off, assembled them. I haven't put the shields on yet. The shields are being painted separately, as you can see. And what I started off with was a Mechanicus Standard Grey base coat, followed by just a very, very light spray of white. Now you can see the nozzle I've got on the white isn't the original one that I had, so you can see it's not really great, and it's a bit splotchy. But more than anything, it's just really to lighten up the grey, because the standard grey itself, as you can see there, can be quite dark. So I start with that, and then I use a mix of green tone, blue tone, glaze medium, and non-oil. So I use the green as the base, mixed in with the glaze medium just to make it a little bit thinner. I find that for this it's been better than water because it doesn't sort of like break the paint apart or break the wash apart. The blue is in there just to give it a little bit of a tinge to it, and as you can see with some of these, they are quite blue towards the bottom, because this wash, I should say, this stage of the wash, let's get some of this out of there before it dries looking all dodgy. This is quite a bit darker. Then the non-oil is in there just to darken it all down a lot more. So I start off with just a wash over the entire thing, and I'll come back after that's done. So as you can see now, after the wash has been applied and it's dried, it's actually picked out quite a bit of the detail on the model. Now, it's not a perfect coverage, simply because of the way the grey and the white primer went on. So quite a lot of splotches of white primer can be seen on the models, and you can see that gives this sort of chalky effect. So I think if I was to do these again, I'd probably skip the white primer spray and just go straight from the grey and then give it a dry brush, then this initial wash. But as you can see, after a couple of coats it all evens itself out eventually. This is one I did previously. This is sort of 4 or 5 steps along. So now we've applied the wash, we want to give it a bit of a dry brush. So to do this, I use Stonewall Grey from Vallejo Game Colour. So this is a very, very light grey, which once it's been applied almost looks like white. So what I'll do now is I'll give the entire model a dry brush of the Stonewall Grey, and it will help to actually smooth out all of these flecks you can see on the back of the model and on the front. So I'll do that now, and I'll come back once that's done. So as you can see, after a dry brush, it picks out a lot of the detail which had kind of gone missing with the wash, and it starts to smooth out the flecks a little bit. So that was just quite a heavy dry brush of the Stonewall Grey. So now that's on, I'm effectively going to repeat the last step again. So in here I've mixed up another wash. It's a mixture of green, blue, non-oil and glaze medium, and that'll just be applied over the entire model again. And you could probably cut this down to a fewer steps if you were to just spray grey, dry brush with the spray grey, apply the wash, and then dry brush, rather than having to go over this several times. I think it's mainly because of the way I undercoated it. It didn't work very well. So once that wash is applied, you start to get towards a more defined finish, as you can see on these ones. So I'll apply that, and then when it's dry, I'll come back and show you the next step. So as you can see, with the wash applied, we're now getting much closer to the kind of finish we want. Speckling on the back of the models is less noticeable now. So to get these to the next stage, I'll be giving them yet again another dry brush, Stonewall Grey, and then after that we'll start to apply washes in more general areas. So as you can see with this one, the washes are towards the bottom. So at this step I'll be applying a dry brush with the majority of the attention being on the top half of the figure. So pretty much from the waist up we'll be applying the dry brush. We'll apply it all over, but not quite so much towards the bottom. Okay, so I'll come back shortly after some of these have been done. So as you can see, picking out a lot more of the detail. Making everything a bit smoother. Now the next step will help us get this sort of two-tone effect. So I'll be mixing up a bit more wash, probably with a bit more blue and non-oil in it, and only applying it to the bottom half of the model. So it's fine around this bit, around the front, because you can just finish the wash at the edges. With the back, I normally just using a bit of water to blend it in, so there's no solid line showing the split between the two. Okay, so once I've done that, I'll come back and show you the next step. And there we go. So the next wash has been applied. In this case, just goes onto the bottom half, so you can see there's a definite gradient between the two. I think I'm going to call that done for the model itself. I may apply a little bit of the wash just on the faces to darken up the eye sockets, but other than that, it's a pretty good match. Very good between the two. Just slightly darker at the bottom, working its way up to a lighter highlight at the top. So yeah. Next up is basing, so it'll just be a brown coat of brown paint mixed with a tiny bit of PVA, and then a dry brush of some light beige over the top. They're just cheap artists acrylics that I've got, so won't take long at all. But what I'll do is, after I've finished basing everything, I'll rack up the whole army and let you see them all. Okay, cheers.
And here they are, all finished, based up, and ready for Halloween. So, I use my normal basing technique, which is just grit, paint, and then a dry brush. I've also glued the shields on. Shields have been done in a very similar method to the actual warriors themselves. So they've got a almost two-tone finish to them. Some look a bit better than others because some have got a blue tinge to them, which isn't a massive problem, but I think if I was doing them again, I'd probably add a little bit more Nuln Oil to it just to make it darker. So as you can see, got the finish that I was after. The warriors seem to fade from a light to a dark. So overall, very nice. Managed to get these done in probably it's probably been about 2 and a bit weeks since I started these. So very quick. I mean, I don't get often to paint, so a lot of the time it's a case of grabbing 20 minutes here and there. But yeah, overall, very happy with them. Not sure how I'm going to use them in game. I don't currently have King of the Dead or any banners, although I've been considering perhaps converting some of the Riders of Rohan out of the box set into Riders of the Dead, just as an idea. But in the meantime, whilst I'm considering what steps to take with them next, as a teaser for my next project, made a start on these two. So stay tuned, and hopefully before the end of the year I'll get this one done. Thanks for watching. Bye.